Tier 1, Nvidia GeForce GTX 1630. The GTX 1630 released in 2022. And I want you to remember that year because it matters. A GPU handles everything visual on your PC. Games, video, rendering. It's the engine behind your screen. And in 2022, Nvidia looked at what gamers needed and shipped this. 4 gigabytes of VRAM, slower than cards from 2016. Priced higher than used alternatives that outperform it. The GTX 1630 doesn't just underperform. It underperforms on purpose. Here's the part nobody talks about. This card was never meant for you. It was built for pre-built PCs in big box stores, so manufacturers could slap dedicated GPU on the box and charge more for it. You, the buyer, were the last thing on their mind. If you have one, sell it. If you're about to buy one, don't. There is no use case where this card makes sense. The worst GPU Nvidia has shipped in modern memory. Skip it without hesitation. Tier 2, Nvidia GeForce RTX 4060. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable, because this card isn't bad. It's something worse. It's a disappointment. The RTX 4060 launched in 2023 for $299. New architecture, DLSS 4 support, low power draw. On paper, it looks fine. In practice, it was widely called the biggest GPU letdown of the year. And the reasons are genuinely hard to argue with. 8 gigabytes of VRAM on a 128-bit memory bus. In 2023, the RTX 3060 launched 2 years earlier with 12 gigabytes. In certain modern games, the 4060 actually scores lower frame rates than the older card. It simply runs out of headroom. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, the RTX 4060 lost to the RTX 3060 outright. A brand new card, beaten in real games by the exact card it was supposed to replace. DLSS helps. At 1080p with frame generation, the numbers look acceptable. But lean on raw performance, no AI assist, real frames, and the gaps to older cards close uncomfortably fast. Nvidia built this card knowing exactly what it was, and priced it knowing most buyers wouldn't look close enough to notice. Technically functional, strategically cynical. Avoid at launch price. Tier 3, Nvidia GeForce RTX 3060. This is where things turn around. And the reason is one number, 12. The RTX 3060 launched in 2021 with 12 gigabytes of VRAM, more than several cards above it in Nvidia's own lineup at the time. An unusual choice, and it turned out to be the right one. At 1080p, the 3060 still delivers. Cyberpunk 2077, God of War, modern AAA titles at high settings. Smooth, stable, no drama. Ray tracing is actually usable at this tier. DLSS brings performance up cleanly without hurting image quality. But here's what makes this card interesting in 2026. That 12 gigabyte buffer means it ages better than it should. While the RTX 4060 chokes on high texture assets, the 3060 keeps pulling. Not the faster card on paper, the smarter one in practice. Secondhand, it remains one of the most sensible purchases in the mid-range market. Its staying power is proof that VRAM headroom matters far more than most buyers realize when they're standing at the checkout. Decent, durable, and quietly embarrassing for the card that came after it. Tier 4 Nvidia GeForce GTX 1060. For 3 consecutive years, this was the most popular graphics card on the entire Steam platform. Not one of the most popular, the most popular. Out of every GPU, from every brand, at every price point, this one won. And that doesn't happen by accident. The GTX 1060 launched in 2016 and immediately redefined affordable gaming. 1080p at high settings, good frame rates, low power draw, reasonable price. Right card, right time. And the market responded. It is still running in millions of PCs today. But here's the tension. The 1060 was built for a gaming landscape that no longer exists. Modern titles expose the limits of 6 GB VRAM fast. The 1060 isn't failing, it's just running out of runway. Smartest move? Use it if you have it. Don't pay a premium to buy one. The upgrade gap to the next tier has narrowed enough that spending money here doesn't make sense anymore. A genuine icon, still capable, but the window for recommending it as a purchase is closing. Tier 5, Nvidia GeForce GTX 1080 Ti. In 2017, Nvidia built a card so good it took their own company 6 years to clearly surpass it at the same second-hand price point. That is not normal for consumer technology. That is something else entirely. The GTX 1080 Ti launched as the fastest consumer GPU on the planet. Competing cards couldn't match it. Successive Nvidia mid-range releases couldn't match it at the same price point either. 11 gigabytes of VRAM, still competitive with modern mid-range cards today. 1440p that holds up. 4K on older titles without breaking a sweat. Here's the payoff worth sitting with. The 1080 Ti never had artificial limitations placed on it. Nvidia's modern lineup is built with deliberate performance gaps to push buyers toward higher price points. The 1080 Ti came before that strategy fully calcified. It was just the best card they could make, with nothing held back. You can feel that when you benchmark it. Is it aging? Genuinely, yes. No DLSS. No ray tracing worth using. Driver support will eventually trail off. But secondhand, it remains one of the best performance per dollar stories in the GPU market. 7 years old and still in the conversation. The benchmark for what a flagship GPU should be. Tier 6, Nvidia GeForce RTX 5090. Everything else on this list was about value, managing expectations, understanding limits. The RTX 5090 doesn't operate in that world. Blackwell architecture, 32 gigabytes of GDDR7 VRAM, DLSS 4 with multi-frame generation. AI renders multiple frames for every real one, pushing frame rates to numbers that previously required compromise. This card makes no compromises. 4K at maximum settings is the baseline. 8K gaming, a resolution that has no business on a consumer card, is something the 5090 can actually discuss seriously. Creative workloads that take hours elsewhere finish faster. AI inference that requires dedicated hardware on other setups runs natively here. Here's the honest tension. Almost no one needs this. At 1080p or 1440p, you won't see the difference between a 5090 and a card a third of its price. The ceiling this card has sits well above what the rest of your setup can actually use.